This is The Body's Compass with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Sasha Montrose. Sasha is a spiritual teacher and channel. Sasha has moved through many initiations into sacred love through her earthly soulmate connections, learning to alchemize her challenges into a remembering of who she really is. She now guides other powerful feminine leaders to activate their inner truth and attract the big love they came here for. If you're sick of repeating the same patterns in relationships, this just could be for you.
Sasha,
this is The Body's Compass
take
with Matt
3 or
Sorensen
4.
and today's guest,
Welcome to the
Sasha
show.
Montrose. Sasha is a spiritual
Thank you.
teacher and channel.
Good to be here.
Sasha has moved through many initiations
We've had some
into
connection
sacred love through her
fun,
earthly
but we'll
soulmate
make this
connections,
worth it
learning to
and fun.
alchemize her challenges into a
But I do
remembering
thank
of
you
who
for
she
being
really
here.
is. She
Sasha,
now
before we
guides
get
other powerful
into
feminine leaders
a little bit of
to
dialogue,
activate their inner truth and attract the big love they came here
I want the
for.
listeners to get
If
to
you're sick of
know
repeating the same
Sasha
patterns
so
in
they can have a bit of a
relationships,
deeper
this
sense
just could be for you.
and connection of who you are and how your background is going to influence everything that we speak about today. Can you share an overview of what has shaped you as a woman and how/why you put so much energy into working with soulmates, soul contracts, connections, and relationships?
Yes, thank you, Matt. Lovely to be here. And I guess, I started off, I guess I've always just been a highly sensitive soul. I didn't really know that term, HSP or empath.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, I think I have been, that's just part of my makeup. And I don't like to use this word, but I guess I had my awakening in 2019. And that came in the form for me of a very intensive karmic soul connection, which at the time, I guess people were saying the word twin flame. And that's, whether that's what it was or what it's not, I don't know if I'll ever know, but that's what it felt like. And that was the term that made the most sense at the time. So I had a very strong connection with a soul from my past life. And that went off with a bang. And almost from one moment to the next was almost like my third eye just kind of opened. And I was having a lot of visions and flashbacks and a lot of, I guess, downloads coming through that connection. And it was like my heart just blew wide open. Like I thought that I could love before that. And then this came in and my heart just like went like bigger.
Yeah.
And that was probably the catalyst for my awakening. And through that kind of 4.5 year connection, it was something that kind of got me to understand a bit more about who I am and got me to understand that I'm a channel, which I never really thought, because I'm actually an accountant and a marketing person. So I've been in corporate my whole life, or since I was 17. So it's very strange to then be like thrust into a very spiritual space. And it was against the backdrop of COVID in Melbourne. So it was like all very eerie. It was all very eerie. But I guess that relationship was probably, the biggest thing to happen in my life. And it was very painful. It was what I would call a really big ego death. And it was the start of my spiritual journey. So I have it to thank for that. And then ever since then, I've been doing a lot of work channeling my master guide. And we might talk a bit about that later, but all the work I do centers around channeling the messages from this divine feminine energy. And it's been wild.
It sounds
Yeah.
sort of similar-ish. I was with a girl from Melbourne. Well, not from it. She was in Melbourne. And I mentioned to you before we started, I almost moved to Melbourne because of that.
Yeah.
And thank God it didn't happen. But at the time, it was painful as hell.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank God for it not going the way your ego wanted. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe Melbourne is the place that,
Maybe
I
it
don't
all
know.
happens there.
Does that happen to people in other cities, or is it just Melbourne?
I've heard of Melbourne and once in Adelaide. Not me, but someone I know.
Yeah.
So just
Okay. I'm
stick
sure it happens
north.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sasha, I see many people who lose themselves in relationships, be it personal or professional, and they do so to keep the other or the others happy. If someone listening is resonating to that, what's the first step that you would tell them how to rebalance that dynamic?
Yeah, I love that question, because that's my kind of core theme in my, what I would call, karmic love map, or my journey. And that's a tool that I like to help people use to understand their patterns in love. And abandonment is a big one. And I think it runs pretty strong. I mean, maybe you can speak from the masculine perspective, but I think it runs pretty strong in the feminine
Huge.
polarity, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that whole abandonment. And I think the first thing is to recognize that it's not just you, like it's a collective theme that we're here to work through as we move towards balancing masculine and feminine within ourselves and within our relationships and within our world. That's a collective theme that, as a soul, you probably came in with a little blueprint, or a little assignment, I would say, to heal that abandonment wound. So it's sort of like, it is personal to you, but I think it's kind of some comfort to level up and say okay, as a soul, I signed up for some curriculum around this. And so naturally I'm going to be attracting and having these experiences that is not for me to shame myself about, is not for me to judge myself about. It's for me to really love about myself. And I think that's a big breakthrough moment and I kind of get that perspective from, I don't know if listeners or yourself have heard of Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. He talks about the collective wounding and the sacred wound. So it's it's not that there's anything wrong with you. You're not a bad person for abandoning yourself. So yeah, that's the first step I would say is level up and just see yourself with some love about that. And it'll be your life's greatest work to devote back to yourself. And that's the space that we're in this lifetime.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in that situation where they're not safe or at home within themselves. So they attach to someone or something outside themselves to, I guess, look to make that up. But what I've also seen in patients is that if someone doesn't have something for themselves, then they become a vacuum for everyone else's shit. And then they start relying on that shit to make them happy, or not necessarily happy, but to give them a purpose of some sort. And that's where the codependency, and it just gets kind of weird.
And that's self-avoidance through relationship and through love. And I know that dynamic all too well. And I think there's a few layers to it. And there's a lot of compassion that you can have for yourself around that. And I've just lost. So yeah, they're going outside of themselves. Oh yeah. So what I was going to say was, the way I like to look at it is that your soul comes in with a code of, who you are. And when there's a pattern around, this is what I was going to say. So I just had a little bit of a mental blank. So the code that you come in with, there's kind of two spectrums of it. So for example, I'll give you the work that I do. I work with 12 codes, and they're largely just the heavy emotions: guilt, shame, anger. That's the base level of the code. So when you come in, for example, I came in with a core theme around guilt. So there's guilt in my family line. I carry guilt, I project guilt. When I'm not consciously aware of my guilt, it's really uncomfortable. It is so uncomfortable that I don't want to look at it directly. So what I do, or what I have done over my life, and this is what happened with my twin flame that I spoke about earlier, that whole dynamic was a relationship that we were drawn together because we both had those guilt themes, for various reasons. I don't know whether it's because we did some shady things together in a past life or whatever it was. I think probably that's one of them. But we hold guilt. And so that drew us together. And so it was easier for me, rather than look at my own guilt, to be drawn into the situation that I was with that person that ironically was just pushing me back to look in the mirror because it was all guilt. So I think that's where the codependency comes in and the attaching, because you're wanting to avoid the discomfort within you through distraction. But ultimately, when you're not conscious that this is your pattern or this is your core theme, you're going to just attract exactly what you are. And then it's just going to be even more painful to look at it through the lens of a relationship that blows up in your face. Or, it's ultimately, it's going to lead you back to yourself. So it's like when you're unconscious, you can go through these. And I probably went through 1, 2, 3 varying layers of those relationships that got less and less each time. But at the end of the day, my self-avoidance through a relationship is pointing me straight back to sit with the guilt that I hold in my system. And that is manifesting in my body. So that is manifesting in certain symptoms, certain imbalances on all the levels. So it's just pointing me back to myself, really. So I would just encourage anyone who's in that pattern, if you can cultivate the strength to sit with your own pain, you're going to become invincible, and it's going to become easier to choose partners that are not so deep in the heavy expression of the theme that it is you're needing to transcend, which is like, I get tested all the time with this. So it's kind of funny. And also not at the same time.
We can make it funny. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you have to laugh. Otherwise you're like, did I just do that again?
Yeah. It's also a paradox. I think when we hold, if we're talking about guilt, when we feel guilt, we play the victim, but also villainizing at the same time. It's very confusing for the ego. So the ego has to just pick one and.
Yeah, there's the victim, the villainizer, and then the savior. And I think, I can't remember if that's a dynamic from Carl Jung, but it just, you go in between them all. And it's like this thick, at the end of the day, this thick energy of guilt. It's like, well, that's just not even who we are. It's like, it's not even, it's an illusion, the guilt. So if we can move through it and each do our piece to transcend it internally, how amazing will the world be if we're not getting into relationships based on guilt or not playing out dynamics based on guilt? Like, we can actually rise out of those imbalanced dynamics, and then we can actually start creating relationships that are like founded on heart-based connection and all that type of thing. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's really painful for people to be going through this, but I think it's also really exciting that we're on the cusp of a big leap in human relationship dynamics, paradigms that's going to start really impacting all layers of our society and earth, I hope.
Yeah. If everyone sort of heals that within themselves, no one would go to Melbourne though. That's the only downside. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Oh my God.
No, with
maybe Melbourne needs a bit of, feel like we're giving them a bad rap. We love Melbourne.
Melbourne is good. Is good. But speaking of emotions are funny. Candace Pert defines emotions as energy in motion or energy moving. So as a lot of people in relationships, it's not uncommon for one person to display their emotions and the other be more reserved. What do you see happen when emotions are either suppressed too much or expressed too much?
Yeah, I feel like emotions is like the second code that I work with. And I think the first one is mindset and thoughts, and then they obviously manifest into our emotions. So yeah, it's really interesting. So as you said, often one person wants to express and connect, and like there's this deep emotional expression, and the other person is like actually overwhelmed by that. And I think it depends on so many factors. Like it depends on their attachment style, it depends on how things were in the family dynamic. Obviously, feminine energy is a lot more emotive at times. But I think, yeah, when we repress our emotions and we don't take the time to sit with them, it ends up manifesting into physical issues. And it ends up manifesting into the dynamics in our lives. And then it just keeps building, I think, until it brings us back to loop back and to sit with them. And I had a wonderful shadow work mentor who taught me, well, my whole life I was so petrified of my emotions because they were so huge. And I didn't know how to deal with these huge emotional, I really like the term emotional storm. And I heard that in a book by Claire Hart Strong, which talks about, so we might get into that later, but it talks about, I'm not like a religious person, but my spirit guides are in that Christ consciousness space. So I just want to preface it with that. So that book is about Jesus and the Holy Family and stuff. But looking at it from my side, not from a religious perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. So talking about how Jesus had these huge emotional storms as a child, and like he had to go and sit in caves. And so I think it's kind of comforting to know that like all of the great sages have had these emotional storms, and like we're no different. But growing up, I think I almost had a partner, a masculine, constantly, because I had to constantly put my emotions onto him because I couldn't hold them myself. I was like, what? I can't hold these myself. And every month the cycle would be like, yeah, the same, until it would destroy the relationship. So I think there's that under expression is very destructive in a more subtle kind of sneaky way. And then the over expression or the emotional projecting or the dumping and is also destructive. So when we can learn to, and I can only really speak for women, but like sometimes I now allow myself to sit for an entire day and cry for the entire day. And everyone's like, whoa, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. But when you can hold it, like whatever is rising, you might not even know what it is. It's like, could be yours, could be your ancestors, could be a collective emotion if you're highly sensitive. But if you allow yourself to sit with it, and I'm not saying everyone has to sit with it for an entire day, not everyone has the luxury to do that, but even 5 minutes, like, you know, that weekend you wake up and then you could just like feel it bubbling and you're like, I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to be useful. I'm going to do this. But if you can just give yourself 5 minutes to like express it, you find so much wisdom in it, just letting it be felt, letting it be expressed in a really safe way. And it's funny how when you give yourself 5 minutes, or if you're me, a week, you emerge with like a glow. Like everyone's like, what happened to you? And you're like, oh, I just sat with my deep shame for a week and I feel so much better. So yeah, I think there's some kind of balance. Definitely don't need to get lost in it for a week or a couple of months like I have done in the past. Definitely don't need to suppress it and avoid it and then project it. Just like create a little nook or cranny for you to sit with it and then let it flow out of you, however feels good for you.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a balance, and it always comes back to the yin and the yang, but that could be translated as to give, receive, hot, cold, up, down, however that, it's just polarities, right? So some people are just natural givers, some people are just more natural, they feel more natural receiving, and not that there's anything wrong with that. If it works, it works for the dynamic, then it works. I think we're always going to attract someone to us that we need. So if I feel like I'm weak, I'm going to attract a strong person. But at the same time, as the strong person, you're going to put so much crap on me to actually build me up. People don't see that. They just see that, oh, they're doing this, but ultimately they're just showing you. And that's what half of the word is in a relationship, is you are relating. And I think a lot of people feel a lot. And you were talking about how the feminine feels. It's kind of funny because us men do feel as well. But here's where it gets weird for us guys. We feel the spectrum of the feels. We feel them all. We feel the whole thing, all of it as well. As growing up, so in those really impressionable years, 7 to 20, let's say, as a guy in this culture, and I can speak from experience because I was once a guy of that age, you are allowed to feel two things. You are allowed to be upset or fine. That's it. We can't go into detail. And it's so unbelievably suppressing that it actually does suppress. But I know growing up, and, not that you get told what to feel or how to feel, but if we're anything outside those two emotions, we get told to, man up, kind of grow up type thing. So that's what a lot of guys are conditioned to, that's how they're conditioned to behave. Whether that works later in relationships, probably not. But in that case, if I'm emotionally suppressed, I'm going to attract someone who's very in touch with that. And if I'm with that person who's very in touch, I'm curious as the suppressed person to oh, okay, how do they feel so comfortable? Or how do they feel so calm doing that? That's foreign to me. But then when I'm not centered, when I'm not, me, for whatever, stress, unhealthy, pick your poison, right? If I'm not doing well in myself, then instead of me being curious and oh, I wonder how she does that, and maybe she could teach me that, or maybe I'll copy that, I'm going to be, gosh, she's too sensitive. I can't. But then again, it's got nothing to do with her. That's just how I am that day. So that would be from a male perspective. And sorry.
I was just going to say, do you think it's changing in any way for the masculine? Like, do you think that the world or society is giving you more freedom to feel things, or do you think it's still?
I wouldn't say it's giving us more freedom. I think the masculine collective is realizing that it's been masculine for too long. But there's also what's the definition of masculine? So from a yin yang point of view, it's just output. So too much output leads to burnout. And then if you get into burnout, if you follow that circle around, that can only lead to yin recovery.
Yeah.
With, I'd say, the collective masculine, look at the world. We've polluted every waterway. We've sprayed. We've almost killed the topsoils. God knows how many species are extinct because of overdoing something, and that's masculine. That's the masculine polarity at its finest, doing what it does. But that can only lead to one thing. The masculine and feminine, they're two halves of the same circle. But I think, as a masculine, it's not like we're getting permission to do anything. We're realizing, oh shit, we need to soften this, or we need to we need to do something here. And when I'm talking about from that perspective, it's not, the higher ups that kind of run the show. It's more the collective consciousness of that. And I know a lot of people from the feminine angle. So it works both ways. So what I think I'm trying to say is, as a collective, the masculine knows it needs to be more feminine. And I think some people are going to take that too far, as is human, that's what we do. But also the feminine are going to take the masculine too far. There is always a spot in the middle, but that comes down to the individual, the person looking in the mirror, to balance those. There's an old Chinese proverb, which I'm going to paraphrase the hell out of. It's about these dragons breathe universes into existence. And when they come into existence, there's always the masculine, feminine. So they come in as a duality. And all these little baby dragons, these universes, they just want to go home to their mum or their creator. And they keep asking, when can we come back? When can we come back? When can we come back and be one with you again? And then the creating dragon just said, when you get along. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. How do we get along with the parts of us and then out there as well?
Well, we get along with the parts of us by knowing that they're there, accepting that they're a part of us, and then really knowing that whatever we are, whatever they are, whatever you are, is a part of the creator creating creation. It's all part of the same thing. If we all come from a single, source of consciousness, you are in relationship with you, but the ego creates the illusion of separation and that there's a piece missing. So I need to look out there for it, not realizing that it's been with me the whole time. It's, I think St. Francis of Assisi has a quote that I love, which is, what you're looking for is what's looking.
Yeah.
And once we get through that little paradox, and I think there's going to be a lot more peace. And when I say peace, I mean internal.
Yeah. And I think that's
Peace.
what everyone is craving, is just more peace in their life, more peace within, and realizing that we're all fragments of the same source of love brings a peace. And how can we sustain that moment to moment is the challenge, I guess, or the remembering that we need to, you see so much relationship content out there, shaming this type of person and that type of person. And that's like, but anything I've attracted is a reflection of me. That's not to say I'm going to put up with somebody or a situation that's causing me harm, but like, what can I extract from this dynamic? And that's where I say, yes, you may. And I think it's quite hard for people who are conscious when they still get pulled into an unconscious dynamic, and then they know what's going on and they can see it. And then they're like, I should be doing better. I should have known. It's like, no, like, this is all leading you to that inner peace that you're searching for. And don't shame yourself for, maybe attracting the same dynamic again, because it's a deeper level of healing that you're going to get from it. And it's, as you said, you attract what you need, not necessarily that idealized divine union that everybody's speaking about. It's like, you're going to attract the thing you need to alchemize the thing within you that's going to set you free, that's going to take you to the next level, that's going to bring you more peace. And it's might not be very pretty, might be a little bit painful, but on the other side of it, you're going to emerge like in an upgraded form, in a more loving form, if you make that conscious decision to allow the process to only, I always say, like, make the conscious choice that anything that comes to you is only going to open you more to love. And if you make that choice, then you can approach any situation that comes to you, or any person or any dynamic, from that point of view of, I'm looking at myself. What part of myself am I looking at? I might feel really uncomfortable looking in this mirror, but how can I love this part of me that's attracted this into my realm? And yeah, sometimes you wish, like, oh, could I just go back to sleep and not be aware of any of this? But no, you can't. You're in it now.
Yeah. You're awake, you're awake.
Yeah.
I think the inner peace, you probably wouldn't recognize the inner peace if you didn't go through the torment anyway, because you need the polarity to make sense of a concept, which is actually a really good segue into the next question. I've coached a lot of people in relationships who have become trauma bonded over time or a certain event, that I find the concept of soul contracts can be quite helpful for them to help navigate through certain areas. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is very topical, and something that I see a lot of. I've witnessed it in myself a lot, and in others. And I think highly sensitive souls are very susceptible to these kinds of dynamics because of all the things we spoke about before. You know, you feel deeply, and I think as a sensitive soul, like, you're often, aside from all those unconscious dynamics of you're attracting what you need to evolve and heal within yourself, you also just have this innate ability as a sensitive soul to, like, see the soul of a person, see the potential, and, like, fall deeply in love with that. And that can often be contributing to the trauma bond as well. But it does go back to what I spoke about before, that I believe that we form trauma bonds with people who have similar wounding or patterns in their family line, whether it be paternal or maternal, might be a bit of both. You're essentially attracted to that at a nervous system level, I believe, and an energetic level. And it's like, I believe that's what happened to me when I was activated so deeply by my twin flame. It was like our wounding was like just really locking into each other. And yeah, I feel like, as you said before as well, like, we need to experience the opposite of what it is we're moving towards. So we're moving towards a place where humanity, I believe, is coming out of fear-based attachments or trauma bonds that's based on this heavy, dense emotional energy of guilt and shame and sadness and grief and anger. And we're moving to a place where we're going to actually ascend beyond that. And we're going to get into a place where we're going to be connecting based on our hearts and based on not a place of need. So I think it's just part of the evolution that we've had to go through to understand the opposite of union is like a trauma bond. And the trauma bond will drain your energy, your life force, will cause you to have physical symptoms. You will be inflamed. You won't be, having your natural glow because you're plugged in energetically, and there's some, you're taking energy from them, they're taking energy from you. And it's just kind of like this vicious cycle. And I think, I don't have all the answers. Like, I still have recently found myself in that sort of dynamic. And even though I'm witnessing it, I'm like, but how come I can't pull myself out of this so easily? But I feel like until you actually extract the lesson from that dynamic, you may be in it until you extract the lesson. And I think that I always say, like, the stepping stones on your way to your soul's kind of utopia, they are sacred. Like, the stepping stones are sacred. The trauma bonds are sacred. Those souls are really important to you from a contractual perspective. And they come in as a big shine, to shake you up, to awaken you, to actually shift your entire life. So when you come out of the earth and you're looking down like at this little drama playing out, that soul loves you so much that they were like, yes, I'm going to come in and trigger you. Yes, I'm going to come in and really F things up for you. But it's because I love you. And, I get it from the 3D perspective, from the human perspective, there's some things that are really horrible and not acceptable. And I don't say that that's like warranted and we need to move out of some of that. But the conscious perspective of it is like, it's all leading you to the big love that your soul knows it's possible for you. And that is first and foremost returning to yourself and knowing that like it's all within you. And I think society puts a big even like New Age spiritual society is like, the divine union and there's certain people I could name out there in the Instagram world who have a divine union, but it's like, this is all just about returning to, I guess, the message that was Jesus' original message, which was like, it's all within you. Love is within you and you can access it all within you. So don't shame yourself for the trauma bonds. Love the experiences for what they gave you, where they led you, and being more consciously aware of the themes that pull you into trauma bonds from your ancestral line is going to arm you to I think over time you're just going to dissolve out of that. It's just not going to pull you in anymore.
Yeah,
that's what I'm here's to hoping.
Yeah, I think at some point in the story where you realize it's not serving, and I was trauma bonded once, but it was kind of more of a tragedy that happened, and I was just the caregiver, companion, someone to hold space. And I'm actually quite grateful that I was able to do that for her. That was just the contract. It was quite simple, if that's even the word. But she went through hell. I'm not talking myself up, but I could feel that was the contract. I needed to be the rock for that. And then when it ended, it was, crap, of course. But when I was able to get myself into a space to allow the bigger truth of it, I was able to see, okay, that was my role. And that's, as soon as I made peace with that, the heartbreak and everything that went with it just dissolved into nothing.
I think that's sorry.
No, you finish your thought.
No, I'm just going to say that that really is when you can level up and see the truth. I love that word, see the truth of it, or see the expanded perspective of it. And sometimes that takes time, like maybe years later, lifetimes later. And then you'll see it was a contract, and it wasn't that you failed yourself or anything like that. And you can forgive yourself and you can forgive the other person. And then the energy kind of elevates, I think, and the soul contract dissolves. There's always something good that comes from it.
Well, as soon as you forgive, you've just completely dissolved karma. So you don't need to come back and keep doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
But another cause of issues in relationships can be one person being labeled, let's say too spiritual or hippie, and the other being labeled too rigid or too left brain. And they often butt heads around important subjects in how they relate to each other. How can those in that situation balance the light and the shadow in that relationship?
I think that's a really important one. And I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers on it, but I've definitely experienced being the spiritual one in the relationship. And
I did get that from you, yes.
Yeah. And the other person being like, I don't understand a word you're saying. Like, what are you saying? So it's a hard one. I think, and I haven't got it right yet, but I think if possible, to I guess if you're already in a relationship where that dynamic is playing out, just having like respect and compassion for both perspectives and understanding that, again, you've attracted each other for a reason. So someone's more spiritual, someone's more up here, someone's more grounded. It's because they have gifts for each other. They have like wisdom for each other. They have things that each other needs. So like an example, when I've attracted someone who's very like earthly and grounded, like it's because I needed that to survive here. Like I needed to learn some things. And I believe that I also needed to plant seeds. I think often the spiritual person is planting some seeds, which will be awakened maybe in 3 lifetimes time. So I think without having all the answers of how to navigate it, because to tell you the truth, I couldn't navigate it. I ended up leaving that situation because I think the spectrum was too far apart. And when one person is spiritual and a grower and one person is more grounded and not willing to change their perspective, that's hard. But if both of you can come together and kind of appreciate both sides, that's going to be helpful. This might not be the right thing to say, but this is what I'm working with is trying to find someone that has a balance of both, like grounded and spiritual, and you can both lean into whatever's required at the time. So yeah, sorry, I don't have a very wise answer on that one because I think I'm still trying to work it out myself.
Well, this might surprise you. I've also been accused of being the hippie one. And I know it's a shock to everyone, but it's as you said, it's coming back to the acceptance of the other. And I can't remember word for word what she said, but she goes, "You're just talking fluffy shit." I'm like, yeah, cool. And then that triggered her into like an argument. But I think the dynamic is really important, and there's always going to be we attract what we need, right? And we attract what we require to make us whole. So a weak person's always going to attract a strong person. A strong person's always going to attract the weaker person. It works off the polarity. And you can't, I'm not saying that, two hippies can't be happy together or two rigid people, but then if they're the same person, I find growth is probably harder. If you have one person who's completely left brain and one person who's completely right brain, that can also create, as you were saying, too much of a polarity shift. And it's hard to see the middle ground with that. I think COVID really showed COVID itself was very polarizing, but it also separated people into COVID's a hoax and government hates us and trying to kill everyone to COVID's going to kill everyone. You guys are conspiracy theorists. You guys are blind. And there was no coming of okay, why do you believe that? Like, tell me how you got to that conclusion or that opinion. And still, I might not agree with it, but I can say, I don't agree with it, but I see how you got there. I don't share that, but at least we can stay connected in that sort of dynamic, as it were.
I think the growth is a key thing. Like if you're just dating yourself, like someone on the exact same spiritual level, the exact same perspectives, like you're not going to trigger each other. And it's not to say you should constantly be triggering each other, but there's no like evolution. Like we're here to evolve, and relationships, I believe, are one of the key containers or ways that we evolve as humans. So if there is no differences, then there is no opportunity for evolution.
Yeah, I think you just hit it, where if you can find someone as committed to growth as you are, then it doesn't really matter what happens in the relationship, because it's an opportunity for growth. And I find that probably women more than men want to do the growth thing. And I find that if one person in the relationship goes probably a chakra or two higher, if they go a chakra or higher, it's hard to relate to the other person. If they go two, it's almost impossible. That's what I've sort of personally found. But I've also worked with a lot of clients and patients who often say their pain, dysfunction, disease, crisis, whatever it is their destiny or their punishment from a higher power. And there's nothing they can do about it. They're just stuck with it. So I'd love to hear your perspective on soul paths, contracts, maybe even past lives.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that we do have, and I've had various physical ailments in my life that can't be solved or haven't been able to be solved by the best doctors in, yet I say again, Melbourne. But
It's a sign.
Yes.
I'll try not to get this to play in Melbourne.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah, like I feel like there is, without wanting to go too many chakras too high or too woo woo, but there are
They're crazy.
Yeah, the things that are unfolding, and if I can, I don't mind using my personal examples of things to explain what I mean. But so for me, I've had really random like nails that fall off, and I've had polyps growing in my uterus and my bowel. So someone of my age, it's quite unusual to have polyps. So, I've had gastroenterologists and gynecologists and everybody looking at this, and nobody can really tell me what's going on. So in one way, I could say that that's just my destiny genetically to have polyps. I think my grandfather on my father's side had polyps. But being the woo-woo gal that I am, I'm like, this is all connected to my purpose, and I'm going to crack the code and I'm going to solve it. And I think various ways I get messages about the ailments through dreams, and understanding that, yes, this is in fact a past life issue that's I think ancestral, I think past life. I think part of my soul's mission is to solve and heal this through my own life. And I think it definitely is connected to this realm of sacred relationships and union, because it's all been brought to life through the various soul contracts that I've had with romantic partners over my life. And so I just see it as this really beautiful puzzle. Like, it's very frustrating at times when you feel like you're getting nowhere. But I definitely feel like my things are connected to my core life theme of guilt, are connected to how that has passed down in the family line. The night before I had a colonoscopy, I had a very vivid dream about the cause of the polyps, which was around a past life where I was male and I had experienced some trauma. And so trying to explain that to my gastroenterologist, he was like, yeah, okay. But I just think it's fascinating, and I don't have all the answers. I think I'm in the midst of solving my own physical issues, but I do feel like when you look at it from a multidimensional perspective, when you look at it from your soul's perspective, from a mental, emotional, spiritual perspective, it's fascinating the things that you can find and piece together. And you do sound really crazy to some people, but I'm finding it quite rewarding. And it's taking a really long time, but I'm finally getting to a place where I'm healing some things through my own intuition and my own messages. And I find that really satisfying. But I definitely think you need to follow the intuition of people you get led to. Maybe you need some kind of adjusting, maybe you need to understand. Everybody gives you a little piece of the puzzle, but ultimately the answer's within your own soul's code for you to crack. And maybe it's all going to be healed one day, or maybe not. But I'm enjoying the process of finding out.
Yeah, I think the whole incarnation thing, largely it's, we're here to learn about us.
Mm.
It can be really that simple. But if you are this source energy, consciousness itself can't experience itself because it's not a thing. So it's nothing. It's not nothing. It's no thing. But then for no thing to experience something, it has to create the illusion that it is something, S-U-M, something that you can sort of count.
Mm.
So from a higher power, a lot of people, they think that God's punishing them, for example, and any judgment can't be from God because God is no thing. A judgment is something. It can't be of the Godhead. It can only be man-made. So in other words, you've made the judgment yourself. So we can only punish ourselves from that perspective, instead of thinking, oh, God's punishing me. If I don't do this, I'm going to sin. If I do this, I'm going to sin. Screwed either way, how the thing goes. I think the pain and dysfunction, you've heard of psychosomatic responses? Yeah. So the body is just a big map, and every part of the body tells you, the posture shows someone's underlying psychological process or theme. And the organs, the soft tissues, they reflect our emotions. And I know there's a lot of research saying now that we don't store emotions in the body. That's half true. But then when we go into that, we just assume that we've got one body, and that's the physical body. What about the emotional body? What about the mental body? What about the astral body? We've got all these layers that we can't weigh and measure. And where pain will show up is typically where there's too much energy in that particular wherever. So if there's too much somewhere here, there's not enough somewhere else. But it might show up in your big toe. So I think any pain that people go through, but thinking or even a disease, they think they're being punished, is really their manifested relationship in relation to what they feel like they're being punished for.
No.
So it's a bit of a paradox.
Yeah, I think it's your perspective on something. And I'll give an example. My brother has a rare genetic condition called GNAO1, which is manifested a lot like cerebral palsy. So he's in a wheelchair. And a lot of people would be, like, oh, it's so sad. Like, that's so sad.
Yeah.
And in one way, yeah, it is so sad because you're not like running around and doing things other people are doing. But then when you reflect on that soul's journey and that soul's impact on so many people from that collective perspective, I mean, my brother is a very angelic, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, gorgeous man. I call him, he's not a baby. I mean, he's 25 now. But the impact he's had probably on my spiritual awakening, my ability to see beyond the physical body, on every single person that just sees him in the street, he's going to trigger something in everyone. In the carers that work with him, like my mum has gone on a big journey in advocacy and helping other people to navigate the school system. So it's like that. If you just look at it from one tiny little human judgment perspective of like how sad, you're actually missing the bigger picture of the whole thing. And it's easier said than done because like it is hard to go through life and have discomfort and have pain and have certain illnesses. Like it's horrible and you don't wish it upon anyone and you feel for those people or yourself. But I agree with you that there is a human perspective that limits what the soul is actually trying to achieve in the lifetime and what it signed up for and the impact that it wanted to have. So if you are struggling with some ailment, it's connecting that into your soul's purpose and how that is helping you to evolve and impact those around you in a positive way. But yeah, very much easier said than done.
Yeah, a lot of soul contracts don't make a lot of earthly sense.
Not at all.
No, but we get stuck in this earthly plane of thinking, and it's easy to stay in that and then take everything personally if we stay from that vantage point, because we can't transcend that and go into, oh, I can see how the pieces fit together. We're very good at chunking things into bite-sized pieces so our little human minds can digest and make sense of it. If the right brain sees the whole thing and says, okay, I can see. And I think if we allowed ourselves to be able to see that and just sort of reflect on our own lives, and I mean, we could all think of someone that hurt us in the past, and maybe we haven't forgiven, maybe we have, but then you think, like the Melbourne, like I was devastated when that finished, and I think I cried for about 3 days straight, just in the corner in my place. But now, you know, hindsight, everyone's a genius in hindsight, right? But in hindsight, that was 10 years ago. And I can see the blessing that was. It was the timing of it, the lessons I got from it. Yeah, I helped her with something as well. So I can see the divineness in the exchange. But it's just the ego.
Yes, the human pain of it is overwhelming. But I can see, like, I can just like imagine both your souls, like, ha ha ha, that was funny. Like, meanwhile, your human's like on the floor, like heartbroken. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
She owes me a drink at the soul bar, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. You'll have a good laugh about that one. But I guess mission accomplished, right? You both souls held up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, and I wouldn't change it. And but yeah, just you can't grow without resistance. A muscle can't get bigger or stronger without lifting a weight a couple of times. And it's really no different to everything that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But just going on top of that as well, there are people in tremendous amounts of pain, be it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that essentially stem from a relationship that they're in, and they believe they have to sacrifice themselves to keep everything going. And I also see a large percentage of those beliefs come from an unconscious religious ideology that, you know, being selfish is the equivalent of a bad person or they're sinning or similar. What are your thoughts in that regard?
Yeah, very challenging when you are in a any sort of belief system that you have in any religion. My thought is just leave. Just get out. I think that's oversimplifying it. I just think you've got to be true to yourself at the end of the day. And if you don't, and I know it's so complicated when there's different religions or societal constructs, or you've got kids or all sorts of pressures interwoven on top of each other. I think you need to honor yourself first and foremost and be true.
You have to be selfish.
You have to be selfish because at the end of the day, you're creating more karma by lying to yourself and staying in a situation that's destroying you. Because your kids are going to feel that, your family's going to feel that. It's just going to create a ripple effect of basically you're making a decision out of fear instead of love, because you're scared of what other people will think. You're scared of what will happen. But what if your standing up and owning your truth was actually going to be the medicine that those people need? Not necessarily here and now, but they're going to remember that if they find themselves in a challenging situation. And I think, yeah, I've been in situations which were like not very orthodox, were very against society, received a lot of judgment for it. And then I always sort of said to people that it was like, well, you never know if you're going to have a spiritual awakening and then you're going to fall in love with someone. You didn't plan for that to happen. And you just can't control all of these outcomes. And I think, yeah, just be true to yourself is being true to others, and obviously do it in a way that is the most kind. But you've got to honor your soul first and foremost. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
And sacrificing yourself because, like, for example, a lot of people sacrifice themselves because they think that's what Jesus did, sacrificing himself. But people don't really understand that concept of the whole Jesus thing. Jesus wasn't Jesus until he died and became Jesus, which is a title, not a person. I think when we have these beliefs, if you're living a life according to a belief, then that belief is worth something to you. If that belief is worth something to you, it's also worth challenging, because is that belief going to serve you your entire life? And a belief is really just a thought that we keep thinking. And research from somewhere that I can't think of, they were saying that if you were to get a supercomputer and get every single thought you've ever thought and trace it back to its original sort of origin, how many thoughts do you think are authentically your own? And what they found was the average person has 1% to 3%. Their thoughts are, all of their thoughts, only 1% to 3%. Can't even talk. 1% to 3% are authentically their own.
Yeah.
So then if, let's say, 97% of thoughts aren't yours, whose life are you living?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Whose life are you living? And you went exactly where I was thinking, which was about the Jesus thing, in that, so many people, I think until very recently, so to tell the listeners, my spirit guide who I channel is Mary Magdalene. So she's the main energy that I connect to. And so naturally through that experience, which was triggered through the twin flame awakening, so I have that very challenging experience to thank for actually understanding this aspect of myself. But to wind it back to what you were saying, I've read a lot of books about, alternative views of Jesus and the story and what happened. And Claire Hartstrong's book is probably my favorite, which is a channeled piece, Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. And it talks a lot about exactly what you were just saying, in that the crucifixion and the resurrection is not what we think it is. It wasn't about Jesus dying to save our sins. It was about, the unification of divine masculine and feminine, which is these resurrection rites. And I'm not doing it justice explaining it, but it's been practiced through ancient Egypt, probably before that, Isis and Osiris, etc. So it's like, it's not something for humanity to hold and feel like we have to sacrifice ourselves because Jesus was. Like, Jesus was demonstrating that I think love is the bridge between all the dimensions, and that even death won't hold you back from love. So, I just wanted to bring that in because I feel like that is something that a lot of people carry, that they have to sacrifice themselves, or they're being selfish, or that they should feel guilty. And I do wonder if a lot of our guilt and heavy emotions comes back to events like that have been so programmed into the human psyche, and then keep playing out in various ways. But at the end of the day, I think it was just about learning to love yourself.
That's all there is, really. And the whole Jesus, I mean, that's a whole different episode about stories, and I mean, a story written in metaphor but translated literally through the ages, not only literally but from language to language to language, where translations aren't often that accurate. But a really good book for anyone listening, if they want to get behind the stories, is Understanding Your Bible by Manly P. Hall.
Well,
That's a really good book, and he goes in and explains the meaning behind all the stories of the Bible. Sasha, what is your answer to the question, which is, someone asks you, what's my role in the relationship?
to see yourself, to see your shadows, and to love the darkest parts of you, and to grow, I think, in a nutshell, grow through the relationship, learn what you can, try and see the bigger, more expanded perspective of any challenges, and use the mirror to evolve into the best version of yourself that ultimately is going to love the parts of you that you are seeing reflected back to you through that person and through that relationship.
Yeah, I think my answer to that question was, my role in the relationship is bringing the best of myself to the table. I can't do that without all the things that you just said. So
Yeah.
I've got a question that I just thought of that I haven't sent you.
It's okay.
What's your definition of love?
Oh, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that.
You are welcome.
So this isn't my original thought. This is something I read somewhere, but I really liked it. I think love is the absence of judgment. So it's like accepting, and all I can just really see right now is just like a heart opening. So it's like, if love is about opening your heart, actually, this is what I want to say, and I can't credit myself for this. So my niece, she's 4 years old. She came to me in a dream, Sophie, which I love the fact her name is Sophie because it's like the divine feminine. And she came to me in a dream. She just looked at me and she just looked up at me with her angelic face and she said, "How can you see through the window of your heart?" And so I think love is about seeing not through your mind, not through your ego, not through your fears. How can you see through your heart? And how can you connect through your heart? And if everybody just like dropped down into the heart space a bit more frequently, I think we would be feeling a whole lot more love. And then when we feel that love in us, in ourselves, we heal. Like, and I'm just getting that now. Like, and that's the method. Have to bring it back to Jesus, of course. He's just about love.
Yeah. I would just say love is a verb.
Mm. It's a choice. It's an action. It's a commitment.
Nothing happens until something moves, and it's not necessarily a physical movement. It's energy is moving. That's emotion. So love is the verb of all verbs. And there's a really good, you kind of made me think of another quote by someone I can't also remember. And that is, the soul is to the body what vision is to the eye. And I would add to that what love is to the heart.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's the energy that, love is the energy that formed everything, formed the entire universe.
Well, actually, love is the actual frequency of creation itself.
Yes.
And that's been measured, objectively measured.
So we just need to return to that. Remember that. Come back to that.
We need to realize that we are that.
We are that. Yeah. That's who we are. And when we realize that, I think that's when peace comes. That's when union comes. And that's when we stop trying so hard, and we just remember that that's what we are.
And then we can safely go back to Melbourne.
Yay! Oh my gosh.
Sasha, thank you for hanging out with me today. If you want to, feel free to share any final comments or where people can find you or learn more if they want to explore working with you.
Oh, no, thank you, Matt, for having me. It's been a very lovely chat and lots of provocative questions. If you want to connect with me on Instagram, it's at sasha.montrose. I have a 12-week program called the M Codes, which stands for Magdalene Codes, which is essentially an experience where we come back to self-devotion as women as our pathway to higher love from within us, which then the ultimate aim is like moving into conscious partnership. But there's no point in doing that if you're not self-devoted and loving yourself. And you can join my email list, stay in touch. I like to do dorky dancing on Instagram, so that's always fun for people, not so fun for others. But if that's your jam, I'd love to see you there. And yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. You've got a taste of her genius, so check her out. Very wise soul. And we'll have to get you back on talking about that in more detail.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure talking shit about Melbourne.
Yeah, we love Melbourne.
It's all love.
It's all love. I always say Melbourne was the place where, what would I say? Dreams come true and love comes to die. That was my Melbourne experience.
Well, I feel like we've balanced that out very well.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. All right.
See
you soon.
Thanks, guys.
That's a wrap for another episode of The Body's Compass with Matt Sorensen. A big thanks to Sasha Montrose for sharing her story. To find out more about Sasha, check out her Instagram at sasha.montrose or her website, www.sashamontrose.com. If any of this episode resonates, share it with someone it might help. If it helped you, come back. Before you go, please take a minute to leave a 5-star rating and a warm review. It helps people find the show. Until next time,